Hey everyone! Today I'm going to show you how to make a chai pie. I say I'm going to show you how to make it. This is technically my first time making this. I have made a Thai iced tea pie before. It was popular on Tasty like 10 years ago, and it's delicious pie, but I used a nut crust for that pie, and I'm going to do the same nut crust for this pie. So I'm starting with a cup of macadamia nuts. I'm just going to pulse these a little bit first because they're a little bigger than my almond slivers. Okay. Now I'm going to add a cup of almond slivers. Now you do not want to make nut butter, so pulse these until they're like a rough sand. And you know what? I'm going to add my third of a cup of sugar, because we do want the sugar granules to break down a little bit too. And so we're looking for like a wet sand sort of consistency, and it will sort of pinch together in your fingers because of the fat in the macadamia nuts and the almonds. I think I'm going to pulse this just a little bit more. Okay. And I'm going to pour it directly into my pie plate to mix, because that way I don't have to dirty up another bowl. And I am also not going to wash this food processor yet because I need it for another step of the pie. So I'm setting that aside. And then to this I'm adding 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. I'm going to incorporate that first. Now these macadamia nuts are salted, so I'm not adding any salt to this at all. You can add spices to this if you want. I mean, that would be kind of nice since it's a chai pie. But I think I'm just going to leave the spice in the custard. This is only my second time making this crust, so I don't want to mess with it too much. I'm actually making this, it is the day before American Thanksgiving right now, and I'm making this for Thanksgiving. So I don't want to mess it up. Now I've got half a stick, that's 4 tablespoons of melted butter. And I might add a little tiny bit more as needed. We're going to kind of keep an eye on that. I'd say with crusts in general, with like crumb crusts like this in general, always err on the side of more butter than less, because otherwise your crust is very crumbly. And I mean, you know, a crumbly crust, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It just looks messy when you slice it and put it on your plate. And this is not a gluten-free crust, but it's pretty dang close to one. So if you are gluten-free, or if you have a friend who's gluten-free or something, use a gluten-free flour instead of the AP flour, and it will behave almost exactly the same, I'd say. I think the gluten flour is slightly better. All right, this feels like a pretty nice consistency. It's like wet sand. I can clump it together and it holds its shape. And so that's what we are going to do. We're going to get in here with our clean little fingies, and we're just going to press this crust. You could use a ramekin or whatever and make it like super fancy, but the most important thing is that you try to make the layer of nuts in the pie shell as even as possible so that it will bake evenly. You don't want bits of your crust getting like almost burnt while other bits of your crust are not quite cooked. So that's really the most important part, is to make this crust even. And try to spread it out pretty thin. Like it should. I remember I consulted pictures of the Thai iced tea pie I made last Thanksgiving. Incidentally, we did Thai giving with our friends, where we had a bunch of Thai dishes on the table. And they were sort of still sort of autumnal themed. Like I remember I made a pumpkin curry, and we had duck instead of turkey. And it was great. I really liked it. It was a nice like riff off of Thanksgiving and okay. But anyway, I consulted the pictures of last year's Thai iced tea pie, and it did look like the crust was pretty much coming all the way up to the lip of my tin? It's glass. My glass pie plate last time. So I'm trying to copy that now and really, really press it down as far as I can. Now, to ensure that this really does stay together in a nice solid piece when we bake it, and so that it will bake up nicely and not burn and stuff, we're going to put this in the fridge for 45 minutes to an hour to chill out, and then we'll come back. Okay, I have just put the pie crust in the fridge to chill out for 45 minutes, and now, in the original recipe for the Thai iced tea pie from Tasty, there's a layer of Nutella over the crust before you put the custard filling in, and I do very much like that layer. Last year I made my own homemade Nutella out of hazelnuts and chocolate and stuff, and this year I'm going to make one out of pistachios. I'm going to do sort of a Dubai chocolate vibe, I guess. I'm not following a recipe, I'm just going to wing it, because that's how I am in the kitchen sometimes. These are raw pistachios. You want not salted so you can control the salt levels. I'm just going to go off vibes here. I've got half a cup of pistachios. I don't need to make a big batch of this, but when you're making a nut butter from scratch, you need a certain amount to fill your food processor, otherwise it doesn't work. So let's start with a half a cup and see what happens. Okay, so I've been grinding these for about maybe a minute now, and you might be able to see, God, that's a really cool color. You might be able to see how it's starting to kind of stick a little bit at the edges. Some of the oils are starting to come out. So this is kind of where we would be if we were making a pistachio nut crust. But we're not, we're making a nut butter. And then I'm gonna insert a little PSA here. It is possible to burn out the motor of your food processor. Don't ask me how I found that out. So if you feel that it's physically getting hot, stop for a few minutes and let it cool off before you keep going, because turning nuts into a actual butter takes time. And I might help myself along with a little neutral oil here as I go. But yeah, just be patient. It's going to take a while, and don't burn out your motor. Okay, after about 2 minutes, it's really going to start caking up at the edges, so you're going to want to take the lid off and scrape it off with a spoon every several seconds. I also find that if you agitate your food processor, that can help dislodge stuff. It is really starting to clump up now, but this is still by no means a nut butter. It's still very granule. Yeah, it's not there yet. You just got to keep going. Okay, I've processed it maybe a total of 4 minutes now, and it is really clumping into something that is a lot closer to a nut butter. It's still a bit granular, but like honestly, this would be serviceable. Like all I'm doing is making this to be a nice, delightful thick spread at the bottom of this pie between the crust and the custard. It also kind of helps create a barrier so that the custard doesn't make the crust soggy. I'm going to add, I think, a little oil just to make this be a little more liquidy. I'm adding like, I don't know, a tablespoon maybe of oil. So now it is definitely getting a bit more nut buttery. Yes, I could have just bought pistachio nut butter at the store, but it's more expensive that way, and Costco was selling these for cheap, so I figured I'd make my own, and I'm extra. I like to do everything the hard way. So, you know, I'm okay with this. Like I said, this doesn't have to be like commercial grade smooth nut butter. So I'm okay with that. Now I'm going to start adding the other ingredients that will turn this into more like a Nutella. So there traditionally is a little bit of milk solid in Nutella. I could add powdered milk. I might. We'll see. You don't have to. Again, I'm just kind of going off vibes here. But what you do need is a sweetener. I'm going to use powdered sugar, and you need chocolate. So I'm going to use some nice cocoa powder here. And yeah, I'm just going to kind of add sugar and cocoa powder and maybe either a little canned milk or a little powdered milk if I need it for the consistency and or the flavor. And I'm just going to keep adding those things until I get what I want. I'm going to start kind of light on the chocolate because Nutella is really like more a nut thing than a chocolate thing, I think. It's like I don't want so much chocolate that I don't taste the pistachio anymore. But you do want sugar, because this is a sweet treat. It's a confectionery. This is not diet food. It's all on the top and not at all incorporated. So I think I'm going to add a little canned milk. Just a wee little bit of canned milk to get it started. This is kind of akin to like a lazy American buttercream frosting, really, if you think about it. Like the nut is the replacement for the butter, basically. Nope. Okay, that's a little bit better. But But I think we can definitely use a little more milk. Bloop. Okay, let's actually taste it and just see if we're on the right track. That's really tasty. Does not need any chocolate. I could add a little more sugar. The consistency is definitely very doughy. I could actually like roll this into balls and make it like candy, basically. So I need to thin this out a little bit, either with some oil or with some more milk. Probably could add a little more milk. And then maybe a little more sugar, and then we're there. Okay, this stuff is so sticky. I'm just gonna add some more oil to loosen it up a little bit. Maybe another teaspoon or two of oil. Okay, I added another tablespoon or two of oil, and then my motor started getting a little too hot, so I stopped. But this actually looks about the, if my camera will focus, this actually looks about the consistency that I want. Shiny, tasty, and that's really nice. So I think all in all, I did about a half a cup of pistachios, about a tablespoon of cocoa powder, about 2 to 4 tablespoons of powdered sugar, about a tablespoon or 2 of canned milk, and then about 3 tablespoons of neutral oil to make my pistachio Nutella. I'm going to put this in a little container. All right, it made me about 1/2 to 3/4 of a cup of pistachio Nutella, which I will save for tomorrow when I finally assemble the pie. Okay, now the chilled crust goes into a 350-degree oven for 12 to 15 minutes. I'm going to start checking it after 10 minutes because I'm paranoid. Okay, it's starting to get brown around the edges. I'm going to call that done. It'll continue to cook a little tiny bit. Okay, about 10 to 15 minutes on low heat, and the tea is starting to simmer. Heat off, and I'm going to let that steep for about 15 minutes. Meanwhile, I'm getting the rest of the custard ready. Here is 5 egg yolks, 1/4 cup of sugar, and I'm going to do 1/4 cup of honey. The original recipe was just 1/2 cup of sugar. However, honey is amazing with chai, so I'm going to replace some of the sugar with honey, and I think that's going to be delicious. Of course, it's really annoying getting it stuck to your measuring cup. I still don't have one of those push cup thingies that are supposed to be great for measuring stuff like this. I guess it's just because it's not often that I have to measure sticky stuff like this. Often, when I'm cooking and I have to measure something sticky like this, I just eyeball it for this very reason. Also need, the recipe calls for 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. I'm just going to put in like 1/4 teaspoon of granular salt. We don't necessarily want to whip air into this, just want to combine everything. And now I'm going to add the cornstarch. If you are a baker, we're basically making pastry cream with chai tea infused milk. That's basically what we're doing here. 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. And this is really what is going to give the custard make it set. The eggs as well, but the cornstarch is really good insurance. I have strained most of the tea grounds out of this with a tea strainer. I just fished them out. And then I've got the custard base over which I'm going to put a strainer with some cheesecloth. Can I put it? Yeah, I can put it down without it touching the custard base. All right, so we have to strain this through a cheesecloth to get the finer tea grounds out of here. Just to make sure we don't scramble the eggs while we're waiting for the rest of this to strain. So it is going to strain rather slowly, and this is why I fished out some of these tea grounds preemptively. I'm helping it along with a spoon, just kind of coaxing it the rest of the way through. Oh, and because somebody is bound to comment on this, my cheesecloth looks dirty because it's stained from the last time that I made this pie with the Thai iced tea. Thai iced tea, if you don't know, it has artificial orange food coloring in it. That gives it its orange color, and it's stained. I mean, regular tea without any food coloring would have stained this cheesecloth anyway. And I washed out the cheesecloth and saved it for the next time because I like doing that. I like saving money. And you can totally just reuse cheesecloth. Okay, that's most of it. I'm nervous as I'm making this because this is only my third time making a tea custard pie, and it's an awful lot of tea for milk ratio. You're basically brewing 8 strong cups of tea into the milk that would usually only be in 2 cups of tea. And yeah, you're gonna thin that out then with the egg yolk cornstarch mixture a little bit, but it's basically like 8 strong cups worth of tea in basically 3 cups of tea of like liquid. But it is supposed to be very strong because it's a pie, not a drink. And it's going to be served with the nuts and with whipped cream on top of it, which is going to lighten up a lot of that tea. I'm still kind of nervous, though, that this ratio is going to be odd, because, again, this is with chai. This is why I used the recipe with the Thai iced tea. You're supposed to use a half a cup of tea leaves, and that's why in this recipe I only used 3/8 of a cup of tea leaves, since I would also be adding some chai spices. I'm thinking, in hindsight, and we'll find out later when I taste the pie, that the ratio might be better if I use less tea and more spice. Anyway, I have to clean out this pot so I can put the custard back in it on the stove for the next step. So full transparency, I was a bit hasty when I was squeezing out and straining the mixture, so I'm adding a 1/4 cup of milk to this base, just to make sure that there's enough filling in here, because I probably discarded as much as a 1/4 cup of milk between evaporation and throwing the tea grounds away. This is honestly the part of the process where if something's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong here. Everything else about this is, I don't want to say foolproof, but not too difficult. But this is where, if you're not constantly here, paying attention, stirring this, scraping the bottom with a spatula, you risk overcooking this custard, the eggs scrambling. The cornstarch will do a lot to help stabilize the mixture, but don't over-rely on that. And again, we're not exactly trying to whisk air into this. We're just trying to make sure that the eggs don't scramble and keep the bottom of the pot lump-free. An instant read thermometer is pretty helpful. It's going to start thickening, really thickening around like 160, and we're at 143 now, so yeah, we really need to be constantly moving this around. Oh, we're already thickening a little bit at the bottom of the pot, so scrapey scrape. Oh yeah, we are getting very close. We're in the 160s. I just realized I'm an idiot who did not cut my butter in advance that has to go in. So I'm doing it with my left hand very badly while I'm stirring the mixture with my right hand. Ah! Okay, that'll do. Now you know why the butter chunks are uneven. Oh yeah, we are really starting to thicken now at the bottom. We really need to mix this better. We do not have time to be clumsily cutting butter off camera with our left hand. Yeah, by the time it starts getting this thick, you kind of want to switch from the whisk to the spatula only. Then occasionally switch back to the whisk to smooth out any lumps. Okay, now we are thickening. When the whisk makes trails in the custard, that's when you know you're thickening. Okay, folks, I think we're done. I have to do this off the heat, but I can't move the camera, so butter, 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 and whisk in until smooth. Okay, last step for the custard filling, I'm going to add a little dessert MSG Thai tea recipe does not call for that, but there is imitation vanilla in Thai iced tea, so I figured it would really benefit from some vanilla. And now, at long last, we are going to assemble the pie to chill. Here's our nut crust that I baked yesterday. And I took the pistachio Nutella and I microwaved it for about a minute just to make it softer, to warm up the fat in there and make it softer. So we only need 1/4 cup, so about half of this, to spread along the bottom of the pie. I mean, I'll add as much as I need for coverage. We have to work fast before this stuff cools off and solidifies. I'm wondering how it is going to behave in the actual pie. It's like coming up when I'm trying to spread it. It is not behaving very well. Commercial Nutella, of course, or, you know, commercial hazelnut spread if you don't want to support, I think it's Nestle. Some bad corporation is behind at least Nutella in the US. We don't buy it anymore for that reason, but I forget which company it was. I don't know if they're on BDS list or something, but anyway, hazelnut spread that you can commercially buy, those will be a lot easier to spread than this homemade stuff that I just winged. But, you know, we make it work. Like, nobody's gonna look at this part of the pie. This is gonna be covered in custard, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Ideally, you just want, you know, an even layer, so every slice gets some weird homemade pistachio Nutella that tastes really good, but it just kind of has a weird texture. Unexpected texture, I guess I should say. It's not weird, it's just unexpected. It has kind of like a tacky consistency, tacky texture. I'm done with that. Now you want to put about 1/4 cup of shredded coconut on top of that. This was in the Thai tea pie, and I think also it would serve us well in this chai pie. There's coconut in my chai mix. Oh, I didn't mention this on camera, but I make my own chai mix. I do black peppercorns, cloves, cinnamon stick, cardamom, candied ginger, that's a really important one, and a little shredded coconut. I'll give my custard a final whisk. A skin tends to form on the custard really quickly, so give it a whisk. And pour at an awkward angle that the camera cannot pick up. Okay, here we go. Yeah, from what I recall, I could be wrong, but from what I recall and what my written down recipe implies, you need to pour this custard in when it's hot so it can set in the pie shell in the fridge. It takes apparently 4 hours in the fridge for this to set up, but of course you could do this like overnight. I could have done that, but then I didn't really have room in the fridge to keep it overnight. So I elected to do it the morning of. And you can smooth this out if you want, I guess, but like, we're gonna put plastic wrap on it and then it's gonna make it look ugly anyway, and then we're gonna put whipped cream on top of the whole thing, so this is fine. So anyway, I'm just going to use the plastic wrap that I already had on the crust overnight. Recycling! And this is a perfect amount of filling for the amount of crust that I have. I'm pretty proud of that, how that worked out. If nothing else, that aspect of this pie will be great. The ratio. I'm just still very worried that this custard base is too strong. Anyway, into the fridge for 4 hours. Okay, I have whipped some cream to stiff peaks. I added a little powdered sugar and vanilla extract to this because this filling is a little on the unsweet side. It has been in the fridge now for 3 hours and it's pretty much set, but I want to take it upstairs where we're actually having, our Thanksgiving gathering. There's no room on my countertop because I'm in the middle of making Thanksgiving, so I'm just holding this camera clumsily as I dollop. You could totally like pipe this, you know, all cute onto the pie, but I'm just dolloping it lazily. And it's kind of nice to leave the exterior exposed a bit just so people can see like what kind of pie this is. That kind of looks like a star by accident. And there it is in all of its whole pie glory. I will try to remember to film or photograph later when it is sliced. Wow, the upstairs neighbors are walking very loudly. We'll be joining them soon. But anyway, here it is.